Welcome, design students. In this video, we're going to create the texture for the timbers that we unwrapped in the last video. And then we're going to copy and place some of the timbers around the house to replace some of the ones that we did not texture. So to start off, I want to show you that these timbers that I have here are black. They're a little hard to see unless you select them. If we turn off the use all lights setting in the viewport, then they become gray again. Remember, I hid everything in the scene, including the lights, and that's why they turn black with this setting on. So I'm going to leave that off for now. Notice also that whichever one I select, the UVs appear in the UV template over here that we created. Now, these are all going to have the same material applied to them, and therefore their portion of the texture will be used. So that's why we used these three separate objects and one template. So open up Photoshop, and we're going to open the UV template that we created for the timbers. I have it in my House Source Images folder in the project folder. Here it is right here. And then once we get that done, let's prepare the scene by right-clicking and duplicating this layer twice and changing the blend mode of the top two to screen. And the reason we duplicate it twice is because it makes the UV lines brighter. We'll turn off that background layer. And then by selecting the background layer, the next layer that we import is going to fall between these two above the one we have selected. So what we need now are textures of old wood. And one way you can find them is to simply do a Google image search of old wood texture. I like this one very much. You can see that the resolution is good when you hover over it here. It's 3000 by 2000. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one into my house project folder. Actually, I think I'm going to put it in my textures folder. I have a folder on my hard drive for textures that I've been collecting for quite a while, and I have them categorized. And I do have one for wood, and I'm just going to put it in there. Rename it. And then I also went to Texturescom and searched wood, and I got a lot of these 3D scanned materials, which are very useful. However, we can't use these because they're just a little more difficult to use because they are comprised of a series of maps like this, and we would have to use each one in exactly the right spot on our Photoshop texture for it to work. They're much more useful inside a game engine, and after we unwrap our house, we can take it into Unreal, and we will be using some of these materials on parts of it. But we have to unwrap it and apply UV coordinates to each part of the house for those to be useful. And that's one reason we're doing this. So on scrolling further down, I found this one here that I liked very much, and I downloaded the highest res image of it that I could, and it's in my project folder. And then in Photoshop, I went to File, Open, and I navigated to the Textures folder on my little hard drive, and here's the wood textures that I have collected. Here's one I got before, and here's another one that I'm going to use. And I'm holding down Control, Command on a Mac to select multiple files. And here's the one I just downloaded, I think, from Textures. No, here's the one I just downloaded from Texturescom, but I'm going to get both of these. And I'm going to click Open. And that opens all of these in tabs, and the tabs can be accessed like so. So I think I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to select it, and going to select all by using Control A on a PC. Actually, I need to click the Select tool, or Command A on a Mac, that's Select All, and then I'm going to hit Control C or Command C on a Mac, and go back to the Timbers UV template and Command or Control V to paste it in. And before we start doing anything, let's lock these top two layers. You should always do that so you don't move them by accident. Now this texture that I've put in here, or I've pasted in here, is much larger than my template, so I'm going to hit Command T, would be Control T on a PC, and I'm going to scale that down. I'm going to leave it about like that, and I'm going to rotate it by going to Edit, Transform, Rotate 90 degrees. And I'm simply just going to put it just like that. Now I want you to notice that only part of this texture is used. So we're going to use a lot more. We're going to reuse this one, only we're going to use a different portions of it for each timber. And that way we'll be able to reuse it. It also needs to be nudged up a little bit because it's not covering that timber perfectly. So I'm going to duplicate this layer. And then I'm going to move this over again. And I'm just going to make sure that I'm using a different portion of this texture. Then I'm going to copy it this time. I'm just going to hit Control-C, Control-V, same difference to duplicate the layer. And I'll move this down. Zoom out a little bit. And make sure again that I'm using a different portion. You see this very prominent crack here. I'm just going to go to the other side, like all the way over here. Then I'm going to paste it again. I can just hit Control or Command V because it's still on the clipboard. And this time I'm going to flip it vertically. I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Flip Vertical. And that sort of flips it upside down, and it's just going to reorient everything. Paste it one more time. And then I'm going to transform it by using Control-T. Put it over these two. Push Enter to accept the transformation. And then I'm going to copy, paste one more time, and put this right here. Now it doesn't matter that this overlaps because I'm not touching that part of the template there. Now the final step in this, of course, is to put a background layer on it. So I'm going to go down here. Select the last layer, the bottom layer, make a new layer by clicking this button here. Sample one of the sort of mid-range colors in this texture. And there's my foreground color. It's now that color. And I'm going to fill that layer with this color. And that is Alt-Delete on a PC. And then I'm going to turn off these top two layers. So then I'm going to export this to my project folder. In the source images folder, I'll go ahead and make it a JPEG, make it 2K, click export. Navigate to the source images folder. We'll rename this Timbers Albedo 01. And then we'll return to Maya and apply this as a material. And we're going to have to apply the material to each one. So select one of them, right click, assign new material, Arnold, AI standard surface, delete the history, click the color swatch, 2D textures, file, folder, find the exported texture, and apply it. And you can see that that looks pretty good right there. And we're going to have to do the same thing here, but let's go ahead and rename this material so that we can easily find it to apply it to the other ones. We're going to assign existing material and timber. And then we're going to unhide everything else. turn on the lighting and see what that looks like. And that looks really good. And they don't all look the same. In fact, they look quite different. And that is exactly what we're after. Now, in the next video, what we're going to do is use these timbers to replace some of these other ones, particularly on the other side of the house and on the back side and on the bottom here, to create the illusion that we have textured all of them differently. And I'll see you in the next video.